Hi everybody, it's Barry here from Turning the Page, and today I am talking about actually a little experiment that I've been doing recently, and it's about people's names. And one of the things I've discovered is I think many people live under a false identity, a name that they use for the convenience of others, but I found that when we learn their true name, some sort of connection happens, and so I like to ask them what their real name is. And I think of one example, and she said her name was Mary. And that really caught my attention because in front of me was a lady of obvious Indian or Pakistani, Bangladesh descent. And being the curious character that I am, I pushed a little further and she told me her real name. And I'm not going to tell you it. and now I actually call her by her real name, and there's some sort of connection. And look, I understand why so many people sort of withheld, with foreign names, sort of they hold back and they have a new name, and it's called convenience, and it's easier for others to remember to speak, and I suppose it's a statement of desire for them to fit in. And so I've been carrying out this kind of weird experiment for a little while now, and wherever I go, I see a person serving me, I like at the petrol station, I ask them their name, and if I think it's not their real name, then I push it a little further and ask them their real name, and endeavour to remember it for the next meeting. And some of the Asian names are really difficult to say because of all the tonal inflections. But just because it's challenging to pronounce does not give me a license to ignore their true name. One person, I actually talked about this and asked them what their real name was. They said, "Oh, my true name," and that's how they described the name that they had been given. And my brain just leaped at that word true, because it's opposite to the word false. And maybe it is a false identity that we are dealing with, living under a false name, the true self, the false self. And do we want to know something false? When I recently asked someone how it felt that I wanted to know their name, they said it felt good and nice and special to think that someone wanted to put the effort into knowing their name. I suppose that they felt welcomed and valued. In God's economy, there are no foreigners. God knows everyone, knows their name, their true name too. And explicit instructions were given back in Leviticus about how we are to treat people who are different to ourselves as the foreigners. In Leviticus it says this: when a foreigner lives with you in your land, don't take advantage of him. Treat the foreigner as a native. Love him like one of your own. Remember that you were once foreigners in Egypt. I am God, your God. That's Leviticus 19:33-34. Now, welcoming the foreigner may be as simple as getting to know the true name of the person who mows your lawns or serves your food at the Dunkin' Donuts, or the Krispy Kreme, if you're here in Auckland. We live in an increasingly lonely world, but it doesn't have to be like that. The foreigner may be someone you meet every day, but is disconnected at the level of the heart. It's often inconvenient to stretch out and be vulnerable, to open your arms and metaphorically and embrace the other means your own heart is exposed and to the potential of rejection, a behaviour of love being misconstrued as an act of intrusiveness. One of my favourite authors, Jim Wallace, in his book Faith Works, tells a story of a lawyer, Dale Rossanalia, who gets involved in helping out at a local soup kitchen. And this is the story out of this book. So I'm just going to read you that section of the story. So about 20 years ago, I started out at the noon meal of the Good News Soup Kitchen in Tallahassee. What a great name, the Good News Soup Kitchen. It was located in the city's then worst crack prostitution district, halfway between the state capital and the governor's mansion. I showed up every day in my three-piece suit to help from 11 a.m. until about 1:30 p.m. The staff assigned me to a door duty. That meant my job was to ensure that street people are lining up to eat, waited in an orderly fashion. Every day I stood at the door for an hour, chatting with the people waiting to eat. Before I came to the good news, street people was a meaningless term. It defined a group of people without defining anybody in particular. From the comfort of my car, my suburban home, and my downtown law office, street people were just those people who out there somewhere. Then one day, an elderly woman named Helen came running to the good news door. A man was chasing her, threatening to kill her if she didn't give back his $1. "Tell him he can't hit me here, 'cause it's church property," she pleaded. In true fashion lawyer, I explained that Good News is not a church, but he still couldn't hit her. After 20 minutes of failed mediation, I purchased peace by giving each of them $1. That evening, I happened to be standing on the corner of Park and Monroe, a major intersection a few blocks from the state capitol, and outside my law office. In the red twilight, I spied a lonely silhouette struggling in my direction from Tennessee Street. Poor street person, I thought as the figure inched closer. I was about to turn back to my own concerns when I detected something familiar in that shadowy figure. The red scarf, the clear plastic bag with white border, the unmatched shoes. My God, I said in my thoughts, that's Helen. My eyes froze on her as she limped up and turned up Park. No doubt she would crawl under a bush to spend the night. My mind had always dismissed the sight of a street person in seconds. It could not expel the picture of Helen. That night, as I lay on my $1,500 deluxe temperature-controlled waterbed in the suburbs, I couldn't sleep. A voice in my soul kept asking, "Where's Helen sleeping tonight?" No street person had ever interfered with my sleep before, but the shadowy figure with the red scarf and the plastic bag had followed me home. I had made a fatal mistake. I had learned her name. Let's put an end to fraudulent living and get to know each other's names, their true names, get to know the names of Helen and others that you might come across. You know, we need to embrace the foreigner. We might just learn something about our name and the identity we have. Here's some quotes to consider. This is one of my wonderful favourite quotes from Miroslav Volf. An embrace involves always a double movement of opening and closing. I open my arms to create space in myself for the other. The open arms are a sign of discontent at being myself and myself only, and of a desire to include the other. They are an invitation to others to come in and feel at home with me, to belong to me. In an embrace, I also close my arms around the other, not tightly so as to crush and assimilate them forcefully into myself, for that would not be an embrace but a concealed power act of exclusion, but gently, so as to tell them that I do not want to be without them in their otherness. I want them in their openness. I want them to remain independent and true to their genuine selves, to maintain their identity, and as such become part of me, that they may enrich me with what they have and I do not. So that's from Judith M. Gundry and Miroslav Volf. Loneliness, another quote. Loneliness is the first thing that God's eyes named not good. Another quote. The heart of spirituality is connection. When we believe that the inextricable connection, we don't feel alone. Another quote. There is a soul yonder which is lonely. And he added deep in his own mind, I owe him a visit. That's from Les Mis, Victor Hugo. And the final quote. The spiritual life is a life of engagement and connection, not a life of isolation and alienation, But healthy spirituality involves a particular way of relating to others and to the world. It involves relating in love. David Benner. Here's some questions for you. Whom do you know that might have a different name to the one they use with you? 2. What stops us from asking someone their name? Number 3. Who is a foreigner to you? Hey, I hope you appreciated this bit of writing and podcast and the video. Come on over to turnthepage.info and share the blog post, leave a comment. You may like to email me at barry@turningthepage.info. I really appreciate hearing from you. And if you'd like to support what we're doing here, that would be really greatly appreciated. Everything helps. You can go to turningthepage.info/support and become one of my Patreon supporters for as little as $1 a month. How's that? It's good value. And every little bit helps to keep on doing what we're doing. Hey, thanks very much, and I hope you have a great week, and we'll see you next week.